So it is regarding the security consideration. It is regarding the security considerations. Okay, so as we know, the banking operations are prone to various types of risks and online frauds. Now each and every function of the banking is available online, whether it is related to the transfer funds, or you can have the you can check the balance online, or you can transfer the funds online, or you can remit the funds online, or other operations are also available. Now these all operations are prone to various kinds of risk, and information technology has scaled up these risks. Information technology has scaled up these risks. So successful management of information technology is required so as to manage these risks also, so as to manage these risks. So what are the risk concern areas? So first of all, competition has driven the banks to experiment with technology. Now the banks want to have an edge in the technology itself, so they are adopting the new technology, that is innovations are available. But whenever an innovative idea is implemented, generally there are some loopholes. There are some loopholes which can increase the level of risks, and further the dependence on technology is being increasing day by day. So banks are more dependent on technology, and moreover these are prone to risks, and the risks are associated in use of the information technology, and further there are deficiencies in the security. So when we are using information technology to provide the services to our customers, basically the computer network is involved. Basically the computer network is involved in the banking procedures, and that further pose a significant threat to the banking operations. A typical computerized environment constitutes of three independent but separate components. Let us see what those components are. First of all, it is the software. It is a software or application which we are using to provide the services to our customers, and further the data which is being stored in the data warehouses, in the databases itself. And the third one, it is a hardware which is being used by these softwares and the data itself. Okay, and further these are interdependent. That basically these are depending upon each other. The software is depending on data and the hardware, data is also depending on the software and the hardware, and hardware itself is dependent on the software and data. So the nature of financial transactions may pose a risk. There could be error regarding there could be errors, or it could be regarding that some entry is omitted, or it could be related to some fraud. So there are some financial risks. There are some financial risks related to it. So with the advancement in the communication technology, all the banking systems are interlinked, because we are using networking in the computer system itself while providing the services. How it is in network? Now let us look at, we are having the core banking solution. We are having the core banking solution where ATM machines are linked. IMPS, or we can say mobile services, are linked. There are the internet banking users, and further all the services, all the delivery channels are linked to the single network itself. All the delivery channels are linked to the single network itself. So if there are loopholes in the single delivery channel, it can impact the security level on the whole. And further the communication happens through the various networks using the internet. Now the internet services are being provided to the customers, and further the services are available through the public networks, and further it could be the case that there are some vulnerabilities or loopholes present, and those could pose significant risk to the services being provided by the banks. Okay, the risks are not specific to the banking, but are encountered in all type of business activities. It is not only the banking industry where the risks are available, but all type of business activities are prone to these kinds of risks. And what the risks are, basically it could be regarding incorrect decision making. Further, if we are using some kind of decision support system, as we read in the previous case, we use the decision support system so as to help us out while taking a decision. If there is some incorrect decision making, that would basically lead to setback to the business, and ultimately it could be the reason that some system is affected, some hardware is impacted. That why it could cause interruption to the activities. There could be loss of data, hardware, software, or peopleware, and we will be learning the concept of the peopleware. Further, it could be regarding some policy is there but it is violated, because we are the to err is human, and further it could be the case there is some malfight intention behind it, that there is some violation in the there is some violation of the policy of the privacy, and further direct financial loss due to computer frauds also, or it could be the case of the computer fraud which could cause the direct financial loss. And further it is regarding the data and software. So data is a critical resource whenever we are dealing with the information technology. Data is a very critical resource because depending upon this data we are providing services to our customer. It is only the data. Likewise, if we are talking about a customer's account that is being maintained in the bank itself, it is only the data which is being maintained in the database, and that database is being updated whenever a transaction is performed. Likewise, a customer A is maintaining a saving fund account in bank XYZ. In that case, if he is having 15,000 of the balance in his saving fund account, whenever he performs the transactions, let us say he remitted the amount of rupees 5,000, in that case the affected balance would be 10,000 itself, or some entry is being credited to his account, then that also basically impact the balance in his account. Ultimately we can say that only and only the data is the thing that we are dealing with, and we are using the software so as to deal with this data. So data is very much important, and further if there is incorrect data, that could lead to the serious implications. So the data integrity is to be maintained, and further there must be controls so as to maintain the integrity of data. So it is rightly said, garbage in is equal to garbage out. If we are dealing with the data wrongly, in that case we will be having a wrong output. Ultimately that would be having a very serious implication, and inadequate control over the data is the single largest factor that promotes to the scope of frauds. And I just want to say, if there is some change in the data itself, that the data of 15,000 was changed to 1,50,000, ultimately that would be a very large risk or loss to the bank itself. Okay, further it is regarding, since the data is usually stored on the magnetic media, in the absence of the adequate controls, if there are no adequate controls and there is some tampering of alteration of the data that cannot be detected easily, in that case it is a major loss to the bank. And further it is regarding the infrastructure. So hardware components are required for the operations of the computer and the communication system. Data alone is not sufficient, software alone is not sufficient. For working it properly, we require the infrastructure. Infrastructure is in the form of the hardware component itself. So first of all, it is regarding the computer hardware. It could be regarding the computer server we are using, it could be regarding different nodes or terminals or workstations we are dealing with, it could be regarding the magnetic media or printers or modems or switches, multiplexer, whatever the hardware components are there so as to deal with the data, or basically the components of the CBS are basically the computer hardwares we are dealing with the banking infrastructure. Then it is regarding the power supply and the other related equipments. It could be regarding UPS or CVT, that is a constant voltage stabilizer. These are basically all are the parts of the infrastructure itself. Computer side, which is including the precision ACs, or it is regarding fire extinguisher, smoke detectors, all are basically control and hardware devices that we are using, and all are the part of the infrastructure itself. Then it is regarding the peopleware. What is peopleware? As I already told you that we will be discussing the term peopleware. So peopleware refers to group of persons directly or indirectly involved in managing and running the computerized system. So we are now using the computerized system, and all the personnel who are dealing directly or indirectly so as to manage and so as to run this hardware, so as to run this computerized system, are basically said to be peopleware. And further, whenever people are involved, there is some risk involved, because to erase human there could be some intentional fraud, or it could be some unintentional mistake that has been on the part of the person that is dealing with the computerized system. It could be regarding stagnation in the knowledge and skill levels. And further, when one person is dealing with the one system, it could be regarding that he is on the saturation state, and further he is unable to grasp the knowledge regarding the innovation, or his resistance to the innovations of the system. In that case, that will affect the efficiency of the newer system. However, I want to say you that in the previous times we were using Finacle 8 or Finacle 7 version. Now we are using Finacle 10. If someone is reluctant to these changes, then that would basically impact the efficiency of the system, because he will not be using the efficiency of the system to par. And further, it could be regarding high turnover due to attrition. Now what is attrition? Attrition is basically when one person is working in the single field for a long time, and he knows all the pros and cons of that system, and ultimately it becomes very much difficult for the company or the banking industry industry itself, so as to replace that person itself. That is also a risk that is imposed to the bank or the industry. And further, it is regarding different types of threats. The threats to the computerized system manifest in the form of the banking business interruptions. It could be regarding some errors in the data. So if there is some error in the data, as I told you, garbage in, garbage out, or it could be some reason that there is some loophole in the software itself, the software was not tested properly. In that case also, that could be a loss to the bank. It could be regarding unauthorized disclosure of confidential information. So it is of very much important concern that the information should be available only and only to the authorized person, and further the specific reason must be specified for which the information will be available. And then it is regarding the computer abuse or misutilization of the bank assets. It could also be the case that some person is using the computer for his own use or for his own benefits. That could also be a loss. And further, it could be regarding if there is cyber fraud, if there is some direct cyber fraud by some hacker or by some professional himself or herself, that is a direct loss to the bank. Okay, those are the different types of threats which are available. It could be regarding accidental damages also. Now, as we are using the computer machinery and computer hardware and communication systems, these are also vulnerable. That is, those damages which can be caused accidentally. It could be regarding some human failure, or it could be regarding some natural calamity also. The systems which have not been properly tested, it could be regarding that they are having a higher failure rate, and there could be errors in processing and operations also. That is basically an accidental damage. It could be regarding some human person or professional person who is working on the system himself has not worked with the efficiency. That could lead to some accidental damage, or it could be some natural calamity like earthquake or landslide or another thing which could lead to the damages of the system itself and ultimately the failure of the system. It could be regarding environmental hazards. Environmental hazards are one of the most common causes of accidental damages or the computer installations or equipment or data. Also, we can say if the hardware or the machinery which is installed in one building and there is some fire or burglary, or in that case we can say there is some landslide or any earthquake or hurricane, that could basically lead to failure of the system. Okay, so major environmental hazards are fire, or it could be regarding unstabilized power supply, or it could be spikes in the power, it could be excessive humidity, water seepage or floods, radio transmission could be there. So all are basically what? Environmental hazards. And further, it is regarding human errors and omission. So to err is human. So if there is some error on the part of the human itself, whether it is intentional or unintentional, it is basically a human error. So errors also dilute the management control of the system. Error in the computer environment may occur at the time of, it could be the error which is there at the time of the system design. At the time of the system design, it could be regarding when program maintenance was there and there was no correction, there was the procedure which was carried out was not carried out properly. It could be regarding there is error in the data entry time. It could be regarding other things also, that is intentional error also. So machine failure is a secondary cause of errors in computer data. So any of the error happens, that there is error in system design, or there is error at the time of the program maintenance, or the data entry is wrong, those are basically related to the human errors and omissions. Then it is regarding the malicious damages. Malicious damages is basically somewhat related to the intentional errors. So disgruntled employees who want to basically do bad for the company itself, who wish to disrupt the services, okay, or those individuals with malefied intentions, they can use the technology for perpetrating fraud. So they can use the technology for the purpose of the fraud for their financial gains. Okay, in that case those risks are very much higher, because these types of unauthorized acts are basically very much difficult to detect. So when some computer professional has committed a mistake intentionally, in that case it is very much difficult to detect it at the management end itself. Okay, then it is regarding the interruption in services. So malicious damages to the systems can cause an interruption in the banking services, because as I told you, the hardware in the banking network are linked to each other. These are linked to each other, and further, if there is no redundant hardware part available in the system, then failure of one part may lead to failure of hundreds of other nodes. So in the CBS system itself, if the central database, if there is some malafide intention employee available that caused the damage to the CBS system, in that case it would be failure for all the branches and not only to the central node here. Okay, that could be the reason. Then it is regarding the frauds. So special programs such as utility programs may be used so as to alter the basic program. So what is a basic program? That was particularly designed for an activity. So if we use some utility program so as to alter the output of the basic program which was designed for specific purpose, that could lead to some fraud. It could be regarding an unauthorized manipulation of program, that a professional may have unauthorized manipulated the program so as to change the data or so as to bypass the security level. Okay, so the basic security level is which one? Where you have to enter the password. So if some program has been used so as to alter the data so as to bypass the password conditions, in that case that could lead to some fraud. It could be regarding some unauthorized amendment to the data, unauthorized changes to the program that is done during the time of the development or during the maintenance of the program. Okay, it could be regarding in network system. Fraud may be carried out during the transactions by intercepting data while transmissions. Now this point is to be looked into effectively, because what does fifth point says? When A is performing a transaction with the bank and the data is intercepted in between, if the data is intercepted in between and there are made some unauthorized changes, in that case it may also lead to some fraud. Okay, then it is regarding the control mechanism. So first of all, it is regarding the preventive controls. So preventive controls are regarding eliminate the errors. So first of all, we try to eliminate the errors so as to we are to remove the irregularities. So there is no reoccurring. Then it is regarding the detective control so as to identify the errors or irregularities. So when the irregularity has occurred, there should be some system, there should be some control so as to identify that error, so as to identify that irregularity. Then it is regarding the corrective control so as to remove that irregularity that has been identified. So the irregularity, the error which has been occurred, so as to remove that error, so as to remove that irregularity is the corrective control. Okay, so the nature of controls that are present are physical controls, internal controls and operational controls. First of all, we will be learning regarding the physical controls. So control over the access to assets. So only and only authorized persons should be allowed so as to access the assets. Okay, then second, it is regarding protection should be provided against unlimited attempts through software techniques. It should not be the case that you can apply the password differently. Okay, so if you are logging in with the ID user 123 and you need to enter the password, it should not be the case that you can try unlimited times of password. It should be available that you can try the password mostly for 3 to 5 times, and when the next time you will enter the password that you exceed the attempts, in that case the system will be blocked if it is not the right one. Okay, and further, only and only an authorized person should be allowed to undertake repairs and maintenance. It is very much important that only and only authorized person should be allowed to undertake repairs and maintenance, because it could be the case that at the time of the repair or maintenance, some malafide program may be installed by the person itself so as to alter the data, so as to tamper the data. Okay, then it is regarding access to system and a particular application can be controlled through mechanism of password. So if someone wants to access a module, then in that case it should be controlled, the access should be controlled by way of some password, by way of some PIN, that is a personal identification number, or it could be some biometric device which could be used. Then it is regarding control over the outputs. So control over the output should also be limited. It should not be available to anyone. It should be available only and only to the authorized persons only. And further, there should be routine checks there should be routine checks so that we could verify, we could validate that all the protections are available, and working very fine. And further, source code of running system should not be available on the system itself so as to avoid tampering. What is source code? So whenever we are running an application, there is basically a graphical user interface which you can see, and there is some backend code which is available due to which the graphical user interface works. Okay, so the graphical user interface is available to the user itself, but the source code should not be available to the user itself, because if the source code is available, then in that case alteration can be made to it. Okay, then it is regarding the logical control. So that was the first of all the physical control that should be there. Then it is regarding the logical control that should be workable. So first of all information system involve two basic software. One, it is a operating system, and the other one, it is a database. So operating system is an application which runs on the hardware so as to access all the hardware, and the data used by or consumed by the operating system is stored in the database itself. Okay, so both have the ability to control access to the data and application, and both the operating system as well as the database have the ability to control access to the data and application. So logical controls should be implemented using the access control facility. Now what is access control facility? Now only and only those persons who are authorized to access particular that hardware or particular that application should be able to access that data. Logical control means that there should be some authenticity or authorization process that should be available. And further, to ensure data integrity, it is necessary to control access to the data, applications and other resources. It is very much important to ensure the data integrity. Okay, and all users must get just minimum access, which has two aspects to it. Now, what do you mean by the just minimum access? Just minimum access means only that much access must be given to the user, that much is required by the user scope itself. Now if you're working as a clerical cadre, you are working in clerical cadre, in that case if posting is not allowed to you above a particular amount, that should not be allowed by the system itself. Let us say your limit for posting is 50,000, that you can post the vouchers below or equal to 50,000. In case a voucher is available to you amounting 60,000 and you want to post it, then the system itself should not allow you to post the voucher. Okay, that I want to say. So only and only just minimum access should be available. So first thing regarding it is that only authorized users should have the access, that only and only persons, those should be having the access, should be available to the system itself. They can only access the system. Second, it is regarding even the authorized users should not have the 100% of the access. The access should be need based or scope based only. Okay, then it is regarding the internal controls. So primarily there are two kinds of internal controls. It is regarding the accounting controls and the administrative controls. So first we read regarding the physical control, in which we covered the physical control and the logical control. Then second one, it is regarding the internal control, in which we are having two categories, that is regarding the accounting controls and administrative controls. And here we are going to learn about the accounting controls first of all. So what are the accounting controls? Accounting control, we mean to say when we are dealing with the application in the software, and further there should be dual controls. Dual controls means there should be the authorization first of all, then it is regarding the validation check on the data itself. What is validation check on data? So first of all, it is regarding the authority, that only and only the authorized person should be able to access the application. Then it is regarding the validation data check, that if a person is entering some value regarding he want to withdraw 1 crore of the amount and the balance available is only 10,000, then there should be some validation of the data which should be available. It is an internal control. It is not available on the user side, but it is being done on the server side. What is the user side? User side is likewise, you are entering some voucher, you are entering some amount, and there are some validations regarding the number of account digits or regarding that is user side validation. And what is internal control side validation? That whichever data is being entered into by the user, that will be validated over here in the server also. there will be validated here in the server also. So there is dual control. So there is dual control regarding the authorization and the validation of the data. And secondly, it is regarding the administrative control. Could be well-defined lines of responsibility or formal policies and procedures. So administrative controls are basically the policies and procedures which are available for the users. Okay, so that can be administrative control could be regarding that you are not allowed to log in the user before 9 a.m. in the morning, or it could be something like that you are not allowed to post the entries above 50,000 if you are belonging to some particular cadre. So there could be some administrative control in the form of the formal policies and procedure or the lines of responsibilities which are defined by the administrative itself. Okay. Then it is regarding the operational controls. The operational controls are usually provided in the application software to ensure data integrity, consistency and processing itself. What is operational control? So when we are dealing with the data itself or the application itself, there are some checksums. Likewise, if we are going to open the account, and further we enter the date of birth of the user to be 1st of January 1950. He is above 60 years. And further when we are going to enter the income tax details, we entered 15G form. So technically it should not allow the 15G form, because 15G form is not available for the persons above 60 years. 15H form would be applicable. Those are basically what? Those are basically operational controls. It is just an example for the purpose. It is basically to ensure the data integrity, that the data is consistent to whatever is entered and it should be processed accordingly. Okay. And further it is regarding the audit trail. So we read about the different controls. We read about the internal controls, operational controls, and further regarding the physical controls. Okay. That was regarding it. The next, it is regarding the audit trail. What is trail basically? So when we are going to deal with some situation, when we are going to look into the history of an event, we basically require that what was the passage, how the entry was done, what leads to this entry particularly. Audit trail is also related to somewhat regarding this. So an audit trail is chronological record of all the events occurring in the system. So whatever event occurred in the system, we just wanted to know the history about it, that what event led to this event particularly. So all the records are being maintained. So whenever we are dealing with the irregularity and we want to trace the root of the irregularity and want to basically detect the consequences of error, we can deal it with the help of the audit trail, where we will be dealing with all the histories regarding the irregularity itself. So it also facilitate the monitoring of the system. So there are two types of the audit trails. First of all, it is regarding the accounting audit trail, and second one, it is regarding the operational audit trail. So it maintains a record of processes that update the data and information. So when we are dealing with the accounting audit trail, so whatever the records have been there regarding the updation of data and information, that would be available in that regard. And when we are dealing with the operational audit trail, it maintains a record of attempted or actual consumption of the resources within the data. So when we are dealing with the operations audit trail, operational audit trail, we are basically dealing with that which person has used the resources and which resources were particularly used. And further, when we are dealing with the accounting audit trail, we are dealing with that what lead to the updation of the data and the information regarding the updation of the data. Okay, that is regarding it. Then it is regarding the checksum. So checksum is basically is generated to ensure the integrity of data. Checksum is basically generated to ensure the integrity of data stored in the computer file. So checksum is a number calculated on the basis of the certain key data items of the file. So basically I can make you understand this a checksum like that when some entry is retrieved from the system, some checksum entry is basically key generated some particular entry, key over here generates some entry over here or some data over here, that basically when this particular data is updated and further it is going to be updated in the system itself, this key will be matched. That there is some unauthorized updation. That is checksum. Okay. Then it is regarding the data encryption. So data encryption is basically systematically converted the text into the cipher text so that it cannot be intercepted in between. So it is not intersected in between. As I just told you that there could be the way that the data is there is change in the data when the data was moving from one user to another, or from, let us say, from CBS to the user, from the CBS to the user, or user to CBS. It could be the case that the data may be intercepted in between the transmission and it could be altered. When the text is ciphered, even if the data is intercepted in between, it cannot be read. It is not in readable form. It is not in readable form because the data is not in actual form. It is in the form of the ciphered text. It is in the form of the ciphered text that the data is systematically converted into it. Okay. And further, at the both the ends, it will be deciphered. If you are using the WhatsApp itself, when you open the WhatsApp for a particular chat, it is written over there that the data is end-to-end encrypted. What do you mean by the encrypted? That only you and the person you are chatting with would be able to read the messages, and not even the WhatsApp is able to read the messages, because that is a one-way process. That is a one-way process, and it uses the digital signature method. AES, auto encryption method, is being used over here. And further, the data is ciphered first of all at the one end and deciphered at the another end, so as to make it in the readable form. In between, it cannot be read. Okay, that is regarding the data encryption. This technique is also used in the banking industry also. And further, it is regarding the computer audit. Further, it is regarding the computer audit, the generic organization function aimed at evaluation of the asset safeguarding, data integrity, system effectiveness, system efficiency in computerization system. Now basically what happens when we are working in an organization and we are dealing with the information technology, we basically want to evaluate it how we are safeguarding our assets, how the data integrity system is effectively being maintained, and further, is system is working in its pro efficiency or not. That is basically related to the computer audit. This function is performed by the computer audit. So computer audit is basically dealing with the evaluation of the asset safeguarding, that is the system safeguarded or not, or is the system data integrity is being maintained effectively or not, or the system is working efficiently or not. It is basically function of what? It is a function of the computer audit, a regular program of independent tests. So how computer audit is done? It is basically a regular program where independent tests are being performed. These tests are regarding the security and control procedures, and further, the auditors use these different kind of tests so as to identify if there are some lapses, which could lead to ultimately into a serious risk to the bank. Okay, so that is the computer audit. And what is the scope of computer audit? It is regarding, first of all, a review of operations, so as to review the operations, whatever operations are being performed in the computerization. These are being performed as per the established policies, standards and procedures or not. Further, it could be regarding review the quality, that the procedure, the formal policies, standards, procedure are being followed or not. Are these being followed efficiently, or adequacy of proficiency, or efficiently, or adequacy of procedures or control is there or not. It is regarding it. Then it is regarding the integrity review. This is focused at fraud detection. It is focused at fraud detection or prevention. Application program is working properly or not. Is there data integrity maintained or not? Okay, it is regarding it. Then it is regarding the audit approaches. So auditors are required to perform the different tests to the applications or the operations so as to evaluate the accuracy of the IT processing. So computer audit approaches depend upon the technical skills of the auditor. It depends upon what? It depends upon that whatever the technical skills are available with the auditor and what sophistication of the system is being used. Okay, that is regarding it, and the approach depends upon it. So there are basically three approaches of computer auditing. First approach, it says audit around the computer. Very importantly, these questions have been asked many times in the exam itself regarding what is audit around the computer, or audit through the computer, or audit with the computer. Okay, so what is audit around the computer? audit around the computer. In the case of audit around the computer, the auditor examines the internal controls of the computer installation. What is the internal controls available in the computer installations, and what is the input and output of an application. So if we are working with some application, the auditor will check what is the input and what is the output. If there is some change, he will report it. Okay. Then second, it is regarding audit through the computer. Audit through the computer, in that case the auditor is dealing with the input and output, and also he will look at the what is the logical function being used in the application itself. In that case, if we want to judge basically what are the functions being used over here, in that case he should be having a technical competence. Okay. That is regarding audit with the computer. In case of audit with the computer, the auditor is using a application. He basically uses computer programs as a part of the auditing, with the help of which he does the auditing. Okay. So these are the three basically approaches for computer auditing. Then it is case regarding the IS audit, that is information system audit. That is regarding the information system audit. So first of all, regarding what is the objective of information system audit. So we already know that what is the computer audit now. We already know what is the computer audit now. Okay. Then it is regarding the information system audit. Information system audit is basically process of collecting and evaluating evidence to determine whether a computer system could safeguard its assets by adopting adequate security and control measures, maintaining the data integrity, achieve the goals of organization effectively, and result in efficient use of resources or not. So what is the IS audit? Information system audit. It is basically regarding that we capture all the data related to the computer system. So whatever operations are being performed by us, the approach would be collecting the data regarding it, collecting the resource report regarding it, that how the hardware, software or data is working, and further what techniques we are using, what security procedures we are using, what are the control measures available there, is data integrity being maintained, and further are we able to achieve the organization goals effectively through it, and further the hardware resources are being used in a particular manner or not. Okay. So control is defined as a system. What is control? Control is basically a system that prevents, detects and corrects undesirable events. So we have already read about it. What are controls? Control is basically a system that prevents it, that detects it, and further corrects the undesirable events. Okay. Then undesirable event is what? Undesirable event is an incident which arises if unauthorized, inaccurate, incomplete, ineffective or inefficient inputs enter into the system. So whenever an event occurs due to which the data integrity is not maintained, due to which unauthorized access is there, inaccurate event occurs there, incomplete entries is there, or there is some garbage data enters into the system, that is basically undesirable event. That is basically undesirable event. So control is a system that prevents it, that detects it and corrects it, the undesirable event. Okay. Then it is regarding controls to be looked into IS audit. Controls to be looked into information system audit. So controls are defined as the policy. So control is what? Control is a policy. If we look at the ground level, what is control? Control is the policy. It is a procedure, practices which are designed to provide reasonable assurance. Now, whenever we are working as a corporate organization, when we are working as an corporate organization, we require an assurance that whatever systems we are using, whatever information systems we are using, those are safeguarded, data integrity is maintained, those are basically having the proper integrity, and further if any event would be occurred, we have the capability so as to detect it and further so as to prevent it. Okay. So it is regarding it. So controls to be evaluated into IS audit, and then it is regarding the exposures. Look at what is the definition of the exposure. So each organization, as I told you, each organization should identify the events and circumstances that could result a loss to an organization. So any event which could result in loss to the organization, those are to be identified by the organization. That is our simple goal. That is our simple goal, because we do not put our organization in a manner that there is some laws imposed to it. Okay. So those losses or those conditions or those events or circumstances are what? Those are exposures which could cause loss to the company, which could cause loss to the organizations. Okay, and controls are those acts so as to prevent those exposures or so as to minimize the impact of those exposures. So controls are those acts in the organization which are there, the policies are there, procedures are there, practices are there, which are to be followed in the organization so as to minimize the impact of these exposures. Okay, so that is regarding it. So first of all, it is regarding the deterrent controls. What are deterrent controls? Deterrent is basically when we are having a policy in the organization, if some fraud is committed by the employee itself, in that case there is a fine of rupees 10 lakh. Some fine of rupees 10 lakh. It is basically what kind of control? It is basically deterrent control. So the people are aware if some fraud will be committed at their end, and if it is detected, in that case a fine would be imposed, a penalty would be imposed. Basically, it is designed to discourage the people, internal as well as external, from doing the undesirable activities. That is what control? That is deterrent control. And what is preventive control? Preventive control is basically that control that is basically there so as to least the probability of an undesirable event. We know an event could occur. We already know that an event could occur, but we want to prevent it. Or we want to minimize the probability of their attack. That is what? That is preventive control. So you already know that you are on internet and a virus could attack you. Okay, so you have installed antivirus in your system. So that is a preventive control, so as to prevent an event. Then it is regarding the detective control. So detective controls is basically regarding reporting or something, or recording the occurring undesirable events. Okay, so in case there is some undesirable event occurs, it will be detected. If it is detected, then only it can be prevented. If it is not detected, then how it could be prevented? So the preventive control and detective controls should be working in a line. Okay, then it is regarding the corrective control. Corrective control is designed basically recovery from a loss situation. So if there is some loss situation, so as to recover from those loss situation, we need to use the corrective controls. So basically business continue planning, that is BCP, is basically a corrective control. So and if we say undesired event occurred, if an undesired event occurred, so as to deal with it, we are using the business continuity planning. So that is what? That is a corrective control. Okay. Then it is regarding benefits of IS control. What are the benefits of IS control? Then it is regarding the identifies the risks of exposure. First of all, so we can identify. So if there is IS audit, what is IS audit basically? It is regarding that information system is working as per the capability. There are particular policies, procedures available which are being followed or not. It is regarding that. So basically we identify the risk of exposures which is available in the computer environment, and further after that remedial measures can be taken so as to protect the interest of the organization. That is the first benefit. Then it is regarding it also deter the people, employees, internal as well as external, so as to indulge themselves in the corruption or manipulation of data or frauds. Or that is regarding the deterrent control. That is a benefit we are having. And further, security features and controls in computerized information system could be employed based on the suggestions made during the course of IS audit. So in IS audit, we can basically make it sure whatever suggestions have been made by the IS auditor, that there should be some particular controls, those should be implemented so as to cover these types of risks. Those can be implemented, those security features can be implemented so as to protect ourselves from the losses. Then it is regarding it can verify whether the control safeguard in the asset or bank or not. We can basically check if our if our IS assets are basically secured or not. It also provides the management a reasonable assurance regarding the functionality. So as I already told you, management wants to make it sure that whatever hardware system, whatever the software features we are using, is it secured or not, is it safeguarded or not. Okay, that is the purpose that IS audit is being done. And if there is some suggestion by the IS audit, it is basically being implemented by the management itself, because management do not want to face any kind of the loss to the organization due to the infrastructure of the information technology. And further, it indicates the health of the information system and further helps strengthening the system. So those are the benefits of the IS audit. Then it is regarding the ISS, that is the information system security. Then it is regarding the ISS, that is information system security. So controls will require to be implemented to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, availability of the information system. So when we deal with the information system audit, it was basically related that we want to detect it, and further suggestion from the team auditor itself that how it can be prevented. Okay, but information security system is there, information system security is there, these are basically those controls which can be implemented to maintain the confidentiality, to maintain the integrity and availability of the information system. So what is the need of the IS audit? First of all, so as to comply with the law of the land and regulators guidelines. First of all, it is the regulators guideline. It is regarding the regulator guideline. So when the computerization was being in the banking industry, Reserve Bank of India itself basically issued the directives for the banks that now the computerization is there, and these should be the minimum parameters, those must be implemented. So IS security is one of it. So it is to comply with the law of the land and regulators guidelines, and further to comply with the business policy. So it is regarding the business policy also, and further to comply with the business partners requirement. Then it is regarding the what are the objectives. First of all, it is regarding the confidentiality, disclosure of information stored or processed. Disclosure of information stored or processed on bank's information system should be available to only and only to the authorized users only. What do you mean by it? Now we are dealing with thousands of customers account, or maybe lakhs of crores of customers account. Now confidentiality must be there, that the data should be available only and only to the authorized persons only. It should be available only and only to the authorized persons only. Now the data is stored in the form of electronic form. Now electronic form data can be accessed by anyone. It can be accessed by anyone. So, but there must be some method. That this data can be accessed by only and only authorized users. Okay. Second, it is regarding the integrity. I already told you many times that what is integrity. What is integrity? So modification regarding the data, alteration of the data should be by authorized user only, and it should be in an authorized manner only. Okay, so the data should be authorized, data should be altered or modified by some authorized user in an authorized manner only. And further, regarding the availability of data. Now, when we are dealing with the information systems, the data availability is very much necessary. So it is to be ensured that the information is available to the person authorized, and it should be available only at that time when it is required. Okay, so first of all, it is regarding the availability of the information, that the information should be available only to the authorized person, and further it is regarding that the information should be available when it is required. Okay, that is regarding the three facts. Then it is regarding the controls required for the information system security. First of all, it is regarding the identification. So there must be first of all some method so as to identify the authorized person by the user. How the authorized person will be identified? So there must be some user ID which can be basically you can say assigned to some particular user, and using that particular user ID, it can be identified that this entry was done by some particular user only. Okay, so if I say that ASH123 ID was assigned to me, so if any of the transaction is posted or entered using this user ID, system will basically record this ID itself, and further it can make sure that this entry was done by ASH123 ID only. Now the respective person would be looked for that this entry was entered by him or posted by him, and further action can be taken. That is regarding the identification. Then it is regarding the authentication. Now how the system will authenticate that only and only that person has the access to that particular user ID. So it could be by way of biometrics, it could be by way of some password. Okay, so computer system will basically recognize person based upon the authentication data which is available. So if the user has set a particular password for the user ID and he has entered the password, in that case it would be thought that he has accessed that ID only, because the password is to be kept confidential with himself only. Then it is regarding the authorization. Authorization is basically regarding, as I already told you, that a particular authority is given to some user. So if this user ID is basically related to some clerical cadre person, in that case, if he is having the scope of passing entry up to rupees 50,000 only, in that case he should be having the authorization to pass the entry about that amount only. And further, if he is not authorized to post entry above rupees 50,000, that the authority must not be there. That is regarding the authorization. Or I can give you another example. You log into our portal at iibf.info. You log in into our portal at iibf.info. Now you log in over here using your email ID and password. That is basically, user ID is basically the identification. The email ID is basically identification over there. And authentication is regarding when you are putting in your password, when you are entering your password over there and you're logging in, the system basically identifies you and it recognizes you. That is basically authentication you are given with. And further, when you're trying to access the materials over there, if you're not a paid user, it will not let you to use the materials. That is basically authorization. If you're a paid user, then you will be authorized to access the data. Otherwise, you will not be authorized to access the data. That is basically regarding the authorization. Then it is regarding the non-repudiation. It is very, very, very important. Why it is important? Because in the case of information system, sitting at your home, you can remit the funds from your account. And it could be the case that you repudiate later on. That this entry, that this remittance amount was not remitted by you, that this remittance was not done by you. In that case, there must be some method so as to prove that the operational event was performed by you, and that is done by the way of the digital signatures. Okay. So that is the non-repudiation, and that is also control that is required for the information system security. Then it is regarding the access control. So it is a way of limiting access to a system or physical or virtual resources. Okay. So access control is basically related to whatever the virtual resources are there, whatever the physical resources are there, the access must be controlled by way that only and only authorized person should be having the access. Okay. So what are the threats to the IS security? What are the threats of IS security? So websites are being defaced with greater frequency. What do you mean by the being defaced? So many of the websites have been copied over, and these could be used in the events of phishing or wishing. Okay, so we will be learning about those terms also. Then it is regarding more and more denial of service attacks are being reported. What is denial of service attack? Denial of services attack is basically kind of the zombie attack which is performed by the hackers itself, and these are being performed. It could be also the case like credit card information. Nowadays, very many times we read the news regarding the credit card information is stolen and it is available in the black market itself. So these are basically threats to the information security, information systems security. And further, various types of hacking tools are being used. And also these hacking tools are available openly in the public from the internet. And further, there is increasing damage being caused by the viruses and worms to critical information system resources. Now basically, there are many types of viruses which are available. I'll not go into that much depth, but let me tell you regarding it. There are some kind of the programs which are available like keylogger. Keylogger will do what? It will basically create a log of all the keys which are stroked down by you using your keyboard. So whatever keys are being pressed by you, it will keep a log of it, and further, whenever you are connected to the internet, it will transmit that data. So if you basically used internet banking services on your computer and a keylogger was there, a kind of worm was there on your PC or on your computer, in that case, all the information that you entered would be available with some third party, and that could basically lead to some kind of failure for you. Okay. Then it is regarding email viruses. What is email virus? So whenever you just open an email and there is some attachment to it, and you open that attachment, in case you have not installed the antivirus, that could affect your computer. Then it is regarding the phishing attack. What is phishing basically? So phishing is form of social engineering attack. It is a social engineering attack. So it is basically, the website is sbi.co.in. Let us say the website is sbi.co.in. The official website is this one. Okay, and for the phishing attack will use a website name that would be like sbi.comrade.com. Okay, now whenever you will an email will be sent to you. So the attacker will send you an email. Over there it will be written that this particular account belongs to you, and further it would be said that it is an invitation letter so as to unblock your ATM. So whatever event could be written over there, whatever message could be sent, so as to basically, so that you could click on the particular link, or it could be said in the email that your password has expired. Click on the link below so as to regenerate the new password. Now you clicked on that particular link. And this particular website opened, which is basically a copied version, and but it looks like the original website. Now you're on the fake website. Over there it is written, enter your old password, enter your user ID, enter the new password. Now once you submitted the data, now the user ID and your password is available with the attacker. That is kind of phishing technique. It could be used in various ways. I just told you what happens basically in that particular case. Okay, so that is a phishing attack. And further it is regarding the wishing. In case of wishing, have you seen the movie Jam Tada? On Netflix? It is basically related to the wishing itself. It says regarding each and everything regarding the wishing itself. So what is wishing? Wishing is basically when someone calls you, an unauthorized person calls you on the behalf of the bank itself, that he is a representative, an officer in the bank itself, and your account has been blocked, or your ATM card has been blocked, and you need to tell the ATM details and all the other details, and he asks for you for the sensitive information, and further a fraudulent request is being made. That is wishing. And what is smishing? In case of smishing, rather than using the email or mobile phone, rather than using the email or cell phone, the text message is being used. The text messages are used so as to lure the customers in. That is what related to the smishing. Okay. The threats may be avoided by maintaining an ongoing study of the IS security requirements. So first of all, it is very much necessary so as to make an assessment. So it is first of all regarding, it is an ongoing process. The IS security requirement is an ongoing process. Why it is an ongoing process? Because technology is even changing now. When we are studying this, when we are learning this chapter itself, it is the case that someone at the back end, or someone in their home, or someone in their business, or at their office are developing a new technique or some innovative idea. So the information technology is changing day by day. Every second the technology is being changing, and so it is an ongoing process so as to assess that what are the threats and vulnerabilities that are available, and how we can use the technology so as to mitigate the risk. And further, we need to understand the access control system and methodology. That is very much important, that how telecommunication is working, and how we can increase or enhance our network security, or how we can manage our security management. So this is an ongoing process. And third, it is regarding to deploy personnel. So we need to deploy that personnel that is well versed in the area of the application and system development regarding the security, cryptography, operational security, and physical security. So there should be proper manpower. So there should be proper well versed personnel deployed so they can deal with the IS security. Okay. Then it is regarding firewalls for data integrity. So firewalls can be used that there are two types of networks. One, it is an intranet. What is intranet? When you are in the same office, let us say it is a server of PNB. It is a server of PNB. Now PNB server will be available only and only in the PNB branches. So here are, let us say, 10,000 of branches or any number of branches which are linked together. So it basically represents what? It basically represents intranet. It basically represents intranet, that only and only the PNB branches or ATM network would be able to access the data. That is the intranet. But now when it is connected to the public network, then it forms the internet. When it is connected to the public network, then it is formed the internet. When it is connected in the same organization itself, it is the internet. When it is connected to the external network, it is the internet. Okay. Now when we are connecting the intranet to the internet, it should be connected through some proxy server. It should be connected through some proxy server. So there should be no direct connection between the networks. So there should be no direct connection between the internet and intranet. So there should be some proxy server that must be used. Okay. Now this proxy server will provide an additional security feature. This will provide an additional security feature. This must be used. Then it is regarding change management of computer hardware and software. So hardware needs to be specified with vital security features, and controls are high order even when updating to the system is done. So whenever there is change in this computer hardware or computer software, you must look into the consequences that may lead into. Okay, so if I was using software 1 earlier, I already know that what were the loopholes and what were the pitfalls available there, or what were the threats or vulnerabilities available in this software. Okay, now when I'm shifting from software 1 to software 2, in that case there could be newer pitfalls, there could be newer threats available, newer vulnerabilities available. So whenever we change the software, whenever we change the hardware, in that case, when we are updating from one system to another, when we are updating from one software to another, there must be specified security features in it so as to deal with the threats and vulnerabilities. Okay. Then it is regarding the DRM, that is disaster recovery management. That is regarding the disaster recovery management. So what is the objective of it? So as to safeguard the information. So in the event of the disaster, the system should be working and there should be no loss, there should be no integrity, there should be data integrity that is to be maintained. Okay, that is regarding the disaster recovery management. So system assets with least damage in the case of the disaster, and to maintain the business continuity at the optimum level within the shortest possible time is the disaster recovery management. So if there is an event of the disaster, in that case, there should be no loss to the system first of all, or there should be the least damage to the system, and further the business continuity must be maintained in the shortest time. That is DRM. So what is the definition? An event which results in direct denial or stoppage of essential business functions. So whatever functions were essential that must be performed, it should be maintained even in the event of the disaster. It could be a natural disaster or it could be a man-made disaster. So now what is a natural disaster? Likewise, a natural calamity occurs. In that case, it could be a flood, it could be an earthquake or any other natural disaster, or it could be radiations also. Okay, and what is man-made disaster? When a man-made intentional person intentionally damages the system. Okay, that is a man-made disaster. Or it could be an unintentional way also, in a way that a person who was unaware of the fact that if he does not perform his duty that well, in that case the system would fail. That could be also unintentional way. Okay, so those are basically man-made disasters. So what is BIA? First of all, BIA is business impact analysis. So whenever we are to devise any kind of disaster recovery plan, a complete business impact analysis must be carried out. So whatever functions we are doing, so what are the critical functions, what functions that the time can be put upon that those are not that much critical, those all must be looked into, and on the same lines the business continuity plan must be designed. The business continuity plan is said to be BCP. So business impact analysis is business impact analysis is, what is business impact analysis? Business impact analysis basically study of the that is a complete study of the impact of disaster on the business. Okay, then it is disaster recovery planning. It is regarding the disaster recovery planning. So information is a crucial aspect of the business. Information is a crucial aspect of the business. So whenever there is any kind of disaster that occurred, it could be some act of terrorism or virus attack, hardware or software failure, it could be some natural disaster. So whatever the threat is available to the system, in that case the system is vulnerable to those threats. The system is vulnerable to those threats, but so as to continue the business, so as for the business continuity, so as to maintain the business continuity, there must be a plan that is said to be disaster recovery planning. Okay, so the process of planning for disaster recovery is divided into 4 phases. So there are 4 phases. First, it is regarding the awareness. The awareness regarding what are the critical activities, what are the critical systems, what are the critical processes that must be maintained at the highest order. It could be the case that a redundant system is being maintained. It could be the case that a proper inventory of the hardware, software and other vendors to be maintained. And further, the warranty AMC terms conditions must be properly documented, filed and secured in safe custody with due knowledge of the persons concerned. Okay, it is very much important that there must be awareness that what software or hardware components are very much critical, and regarding it all the data inventory must be maintained. And further, if it is regarding the warranty or insurance, or all the conditions must be properly documented, and further it must be secured in the safe custody with due knowledge of the persons concerned. And only licensed versions of the softwares should be used, and all the licensed versions of the software like floppy, CD disk or all the things must be recorded and stored. Okay, second phase, it is regarding the preparation. First, it is regarding the awareness. Second, it is regarding the preparation. Okay, so core and support teams consisting of skilled and trained personnel must be employed, and further alternate recovery sites known as disaster recovery sites to take over in case of need. So if there is system failure of the CBS, if the main server fails, in that case, if there is some disaster recovery site which is available, the data must be used from that site itself so as to maintain the business continuity. Okay, and further backup of data on daily basis. So mirror image of the data must be created so that we can rely on that particular system. And further documentation of the disaster recovery plan, that is regarding the preparation. Then it is regarding the testing, very important phase. So different types of test, it could be a mock drill or mock testing. Okay, likewise simulating a disaster condition, or it could be regarding announcing a testing to check the efficacy of the disaster recovery plan. So if we want to check if we can implement the plan efficiently or not. Okay, so different type of testings can be done. Fourth, it is regarding the recovery. So disaster or work disruption can happen due to the factors. It can happen due to many factors. Okay, and further, what were the steps are available, those should be taken accordingly as per the disaster recovery plan. So these are the 4 phases. First of all, it is regarding the awareness, then it is regarding the preparation, third it is regarding the testing, and fourth one it is regarding the recovery. So these are 4 phases of the disaster recovery. Okay.